Today on Ask Money Talk, we answer a question sparked by a post which has been making the rounds on social media for months. It reads, before you pass away, remove your children as the beneficiaries for everything that you own. Put all of your assets you own in a trust, and then make your kids the beneficiaries of that trust. Your children can bypass what is called the probate period. The original source of that post is unknown. The question is this good advice? Monique Chevalier from TD Wealth joins me now to weigh in. Is this good advice?
Well, before we jump into the specific post, it's really important for people to remember when they're looking at these things on social media that anytime you see information that's not tailored to your specific situation, just to approach it with some caution.
Yeah.
Because these kind of blanket statements can be a bit of a red flag.
I was just going to interject and just say yes, because social media is powerful and great, and I'm a fan, but the source matters, and also who it's speaking to matters.
Exactly. And on that source, the source could be from another country, may or may not be valid or appropriate in Canada. And with the specific post, what I like about it is it's a perfect example of a situation where a little bit of credible advice, which is the trust can be good, can be misused and misinterpreted. So when it comes to trusts can be a very good tool. If people have complicated family situations, they want privacy, and they can be a tool for saving on probate fees depending on the size of the estate. But there's different types. They come with different costs, both to set them up and then in an ongoing way. And they also can trigger potential tax consequences. So it's not the right tool for everybody.
When you say it could trigger tax consequences, just going back to the post, they're saying, put everything in the trust. Well, not everything can go in the trust, can it?
Well, exactly. So, which is also where we come to this piece about remove your kids.
Yeah.
So not everything can go into a trust. And then you're going to need a will to deal with those things that aren't going into the trust, because otherwise you have what we call an intestacy, which just means there's no will. And it's a bit of a more complex process to go through to get the ability to deal with that. So for example, person may live in a province where it's not advisable to put a home or a cottage into a trust, or maybe there's a bank account they forgot to add to the trust. And so you could, end up with a situation where there isn't the proper documentation to deal with that. So, yeah.
I was going to ask, and also for certain assets, I know you and I had spoken earlier, things can happen to those assets if they move into a trust. So if a house goes in a trust, do you lose the principal residence exemption?
Yes, so there's a couple things that happen when things go into a trust. So yes, with the home, if you had the principal residence exemption coming, before it was put into the trust, unless it's a specific type of trust that's used, then once it's in the trust, it may lose that principal residence exemption, which is quite a lot of money and much more than the probate would have been.
Yeah.
And then the other piece that's really important on that tax side is that when you put something into a trust, it triggers a capital gain. So it treats it as if you'd sold it when you were putting it in. And again, unless there's certain kinds of trusts where you are allowed to do this in a tax-free way and it works, but for other kinds of trusts, you may trigger that gain now when you really weren't intending to pay those taxes right now.
Yeah, which will be, in some cases, I'm sure, 5, 10, 20-fold the probate fees.
Exactly,
yeah.
Exactly. At a time when you were hoping to have that money available for your retirement.
Can we talk about probate a bit too? Because that is the whole point of this post, is they're trying to help people bypass it.
Yes.
Is it as bad as, I've been talking about this stuff for years, and that seems to be the one thing people fixate on. And is it the right thing to fixate on?
They do fixate on it. And what we often tell people is it's not the big bad wolf. Really what probate is it's a process, it's a court order that gets attached to a will, says this is this person's last will, this is who the executor is, and that's what gives the banks, the land title office, comfort that they're transferring the assets to the right executor. And a lot of estates, particularly generation to generation, that's what helps this whole, that generational transfer goes smoothly. Yes, there is time and process because you have to gather information, usually work with a lawyer to file documents.
It's not a good time usually, so.
It's exactly not a good time, and there is the cost of the probate fees. But sometimes the things that people do to try to avoid those probate fees kind of worse than the situation would have been otherwise.
Yeah. So I guess for someone who's taking a look and they see these little tidbits on social media, what should they do?
Really, they should go and speak to their advisor, speak to an estate planning lawyer. Gives them a bit of knowledge when they go in to start that conversation. They have some questions they can ask. And then the lawyer, the advisor, can help them tailor it to their own situation.
That's Monique Chabier with TD Wealth. And if you have a question, we would love to hear from you. Send it to moneytalk@td.com.